Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump ready to strike Iran again if peace talks fail. What he says about the conduct of the Iranian regime during the ceasefire. The work to reopen the Strait of Hormuz continues. Iran is still holding the critical passage hostage. The steps President Trump is taking now. Vice President J.D. Vance warning Tehran not to play the U.S. as he departs for Islamabad for talks to end the war with Iran. A big legal blow for Meta platforms. Massachusetts top court says the tech giant must answer claims it knowingly addicted victims. A U.S. trade court is hearing a key case today weighing the legality of President Trump's 10% global import tariff, which 24 states are challenging. Lawmakers speak to the Artemis II crew as they prepare to come home. What to expect as the Orion capsule attempts its splashdown later today.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. President Trump saying he's ready to strike Iran again if peace talks fail in Pakistan. The president telling the New York Post that U.S. warships are being reloaded. This comes as Vice President J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner are heading to Pakistan to negotiate a peace deal. Trump says we'll find out if the talks are successful in about 24 hours. The president tells the New York Post that U.S. warships are reloaded with the best weapons ever made, and if Iran can't reach a deal, he will be using them. Trump also suggests that the Iranian regime is being untruthful. The president posting on Truth Social today, quote, "The Iranians don't seem to realize they have no cards other than a short-term extortion of the world by using international waterways. The only reason they are alive today is to negotiate." Just yesterday, he also criticized the Iranian regime for how they're not allowing free passage through the Strait of Hormuz, suggesting this may be against the ceasefire agreement. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett saying the Strait of Hormuz will be open within 2 months. Here he is on Fox Business this morning.
Do you think we can open the straits and get the flow of oil going within the next, say, 2 months?
Yes. So, I can't go into, classified stuff, but first, we're very, very hopeful. We've got the A-team going to Pakistan to negotiate with the Iranians, and we also have backup plans if necessary.
Okay.
Hassett says removing the Iranian regime would make the world better off in the long run. He points to higher potential for economic growth and investment in the Gulf area once the threat of Iran is removed. He also says energy prices will drop once the Strait of Hormuz reopens, adding that only about 10% of the normal traffic is transiting through the waterway. Ship tracking data shows the strait seeing minimal traffic today. Between Wednesday and yesterday morning, only 7 ships passed through the strait, a fraction of the 140 ships that would normally pass. The work to reopen the Strait of Hormuz continues. Iran is still holding the critical passage hostage. President Trump sending a warning to the regime while working on a solution with foreign leaders. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pasdar has the latest on the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz.
The Strait of Hormuz on Friday still seeing minimal traffic. Tracking data from marine traffic shows that almost no ships are passing through. Most vessels sailing through the strait are linked to Iran. Also on Friday, an Israeli intelligence official telling Fox News that Iran is charging a fee for ships to pass, saying the strait is effectively under full Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps control. They decide who gets to go through, but more importantly, who doesn't. This corresponds with a statement from President Trump made a day earlier, saying there are reports that Iran is charging fees to tankers going through the Hormuz Strait. They better not be, and if they are, they better stop now.
Military and diplomatic strength.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying he spoke with President Trump on Thursday night about reopening the passage. Here's what they discussed.
We've been pulling together a coalition of countries, now over 30 countries, working on a political and diplomatic plan, but also looking at military capabilities and actually the logistics of actually moving vessels through the strait. So that was the focus of the discussion last night.
Prime Minister Starmer completing a trip to Saudi Arabia and the UAE, where they discussed reopening Hormuz and the current ceasefire. Starmer says him and the Gulf nations agreed on several points.
Strait of Hormuz has to be part of the solution, a very strong sense that there can't be tolling or restrictions on that navigation.
Britain's Foreign Secretary agrees, saying the Strait of Hormuz must be fully reopened without restrictions or tolls. The blocking of this vital waterway is hitting trade around the world. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
To talk to us about the recent developments in the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, joining us now is Babak Shikarabi, political analyst and founding member of Cyprus the Great Institute. So first of all, thank you for coming on the show today. I just want to start off by asking you, President Trump today posting online saying, and I'm saying this as a quote, the world's most powerful reset. He didn't give any further explanation. I think it could mean a number of things. But let me ask you, do you think there has been a reset in the Middle East?
Hi, Don. Thank you for having me. It's very difficult to say yes or no when it comes into that regards. We have to remember when the war started, the objectives of this war, militarily at least, were not to stop until this regime collapses. At least in few occasions, President Trump says the regime change is on table and it's not a bad thing. So those were the messages being telegraphed to the world. Now, obviously, that hasn't happened. The regime, at least the narrative that it's using for the domestic audience, is that they have come victorious out of this. And obviously, we saw the European countries didn't join that military coalition. All of this plays into the hands of the regime in Iran. So as it stands, if I were to just guess based on what we see out there, would be no, there is no reset because the regime has remained in power. The same group of people are still running the country. We don't know if the Supreme Leader, the son, is still alive or not, and what condition he is in. We don't know who the American administration is negotiating with, and if that group that they're negotiating, if they represent the entire factions, whatever we have within the regime in Iran.
So you're saying the Iranian regime potentially is portraying this, at least domestically, as a victory to itself. So I talked to a guest, I think a couple of days ago on this. He said it's actually dangerous for the Iranian regime to think that it has won because, Iran really, militarily speaking, has no cards. President Trump, I think, said that as well. The U.S. holds all the cards. So do you think it's dangerous for Iran to think that it has a victory here?
Well, they don't have the conventional army in a sense that to be able to have a war that is going to last for a few years. But definitely their missile capabilities has proven effective. That's undeniable. The pressure that they exerted on the world economy resulted the political objective they were following. And we're seeing the result of that. A negotiation is about to take place. It is dangerous for the regime in Iran to portray this as a victory in a sense that that small group of people who support the regime would become even more fanatic than before. These are the armed group that they're in there. They're wounded. Their supreme leader has been eliminated. A bunch of their military generals have been eliminated. And if the regime portrayed this as a victory, they would get the false feeling of that they can continue on this war and essentially achieve the ideological and religious objective that has been promised to them for 47 years. So in that sense, yes, it could be dangerous for the regime. But we also have to remember, if you look at the events taking place after the October 7, 2023, there is a sense of very negative view towards Israel by the Muslim population in the region. These people right now, they see the regime in Iran as the only government who stood up to Israel for nearly 80 years, fired missile at them, and then here's it still standing. In that regard, those people would be very unhappy with their own governments who have been looking for a political solution. So if that happens, we're gonna see, in my opinion, we're gonna see perhaps many uprising in those countries by the Muslim population in their countries against the governments there. So even if the regime in Iran falls, if the things remain the same, if the regime in Iran falls, we're gonna see, if it doesn't fall, we're gonna see the negative effect of this regime remaining in power far beyond Iran's borders for perhaps many decades to come. So these are the things we have to be mindful of.
Okay, so to your point that if the regime doesn't fall in Iran, what is its strategy right now? Amid this pressure from the U.S., negotiations happening on Saturday as well. The president saying if negotiations fail, attacks could resume. So what is Iran's strategy right now? It seems like it's not even allowing more ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz.
We don't know if U.S. had that in its toolbox to kind of exert that pressure at the moment. So there's no doubt militarily, U.S. obviously is a superpower. The military of the regime in Iran cannot stand up to it. But talking about this Strait of Hormuz, they have proven that they have been able to shut it down. As far as the regime and standing in power, what's happening inside Iran, if I bring you and your audience to a sequence of events, back in December and early January, there was a massive uprising. People responded back to Prince Reza's call. They took to streets in millions. And obviously, many of them paid by their lives. There was an enormous amount of violence used against them. We don't have the exact numbers. We don't know exactly to what extent the atrocity used against Iranian people because of the internet blackout. But then after that, it comes the start of this war. But at no point we saw American administration cozy up to Prince Reza, the head of the opposition in Iran, or he resides outside of Iran. I mean, the opposition against the regime in Iran. Had the American administration has shown some sort of support for people of Iran and the name that they had chanted, I believe we would have seen a more clear picture portrayed for the Iranian people. They perhaps would have taken on the street and add more pressure from within. That hasn't been seen to this point. So it's kind of confusing for the Iranian people not to know what kind of objective the American administration is pursuing. Do they want a regime change, or do they want to make this regime to change its behavior? If it's the change of the behavior as it stands, we see obviously nothing has changed. They portraying their full support for their proxies, especially Hezbollah and Houthis and etc. They're still talking about the same rhetorics. They're still following the same ideological goals, and militarily, they're still a threat against the countries in the region.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the ceasefire a little bit more. In your view, do you think Iran is genuinely trying to uphold this ceasefire? How would you characterize the strength of this ceasefire?
They need to. So I have no doubt there is at least understanding of how badly they need this, because keep that in mind. If this continues, eventually at one point, people in Iran are going to take back on the street. And that's something that the regime cannot afford. But if you also look at the targets eliminated by the U.S. strikes or Israeli strikes, majority of the people who got killed, the generals, the high-ranking officers that got killed, they were the ones that were in charge of the IRGC, but not the ones that they were in charge of suppressing people inside the borders of Iran. Some of them have been, I'm not denying that, but I'm saying that if that had been pursued, if the riot police and etc. have been targeted perhaps more, that would have created a better opportunity for Iranian people to take it on the street. So the regime, as it stands, having those forces to some degree intact, is in need of this ceasefire to gain momentum, to keep control, and make sure that there would be no another uprising. So if you look at it from just internal perspective, they need it more than anybody else. But if we look at from the perspective that what kind of pressure they can exert to the neighboring countries, it seems like their missile program it's somewhat still effective and can deliver damages to the countries and pressure the world economy.
Okay, if they need this ceasefire, I still wonder why they won't let more ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz. But you can talk about that. But I want to ask you this. So the peace negotiations is happening tomorrow, as I mentioned earlier. What do you think Iran will try to get out of this meeting? What is Iran's tactic for this peace negotiation?
Well, I'll respond back to the earlier question. To hold on to the Strait of Hormuz, it's essentially a tool they can use to pressure the world to kind of come to their aid and help them to achieve a peace that it would last long. That's the reason. They're pressuring the world's economy. And at this point, because the military campaign has been halted, so there's no reason for them to open up the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, you see there are attacks happening from Israel inside Lebanon against Hezbollah, which is the regime's proxies in the region. The regime either has to support its proxies, or if it stops supporting those proxies, it's going to lose face amongst all the Muslim nations who have supported them. So that's the dilemma the regime has. They have to get some sort of a peace deal that keeping their proxies intact. And I'm not sure if Israel is going to allow that to happen. At the same time, it seems like the American administration is more concerned about opening the Strait of Hormuz rather than immediately dealing with the proxy support that the regime offers.
All right. Okay. Just one final question here. I want to ask you about the ideology of the Iranian regime. Some guests we have talked to in the past said there has been a regime change, technically speaking, but there hasn't been a change in ideology. So the ideology of the regime remains the same as before. And the question here is, I want to ask you, some of the guests have said it's impossible to get rid of the Iranian regime's ideology. They say it's like you want to get rid of evil from the world. Do you agree with this statement?
To a degree. First of all, just like I said earlier, we don't know who's in charge of the regime right now. If the Supreme Leader, the son, is not in full charge of his faculties, if he's physically or mentally is not in a shape to control the country, then who's controlling the country? There would be a power vacuum, and there would be different faction of the regime following different objectives, perhaps. So we're going to see some sort of a gap in between there, but we don't know yet. We don't know. All the intelligence reports are pointing out that the Supreme Leader is in coma and is not in a shape to control the country. And if those are true, they're completely against what the regime in Iran is portraying. They're saying that he's very well, he's in control of everything, and he's essentially signing off everything that's happening there. So first we have to know who's in control of the regime. Once we know that, and I think in the next few days or perhaps weeks, we're going to have a more clear picture as who's alive, who's dead, who's in charge, who's not in charge. As far as the objective that regime is following, things have got even far worse than before, in a sense that that small group of people, armed group of people, militias, IRGC, etc., that they're supporter of the regime. If they view this as a victory, they would be persisting on following the path they have traveled for 47 years. And if whomever representing the regime says otherwise, is going to lose their support, that creates a problem for them they cannot afford, because most majority of Iranian people are against them. And if this armed group, IRGC and police and etc., if they're not supporting the regime could fall in no time. So that creates a challenge for the regime to follow the ideology or to not to follow the ideology. So even if there are a group of people in charge who have the senses to come to understanding that they, in order to survive, they have to back off from that ideological stance they've had. But in reality, in actions, they cannot. But again, at this point, we don't know who's in charge. The people who are in charge might be, from the ideological standpoint, worse than what the people that we had seen before. All in all, I don't think this regime is capable of changing its DNA for multiple reasons. First, it loses support of that very minimal group of people who are supporting it. Secondly, it's going to lose the support of all the proxies in the region, which been a tool for them to pressure people inside Iran and the other countries outside of Iran. So for these two reasons alone, I don't see they do a 180-degree turn.
Okay, very clearly said. Very interesting conversation as well today. Let's leave it there. Babak, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Dan. Have a good day.
ICE officials are addressing the case of a Haitian national in the country illegally charged with the brutal hammer murder of a Florida mother. Let's take a look.
Talk about a woman who was savagely murdered in our community at the hands of a violent illegal alien. So on April 3rd, the Fort Myers Police Department in Fort Myers, Florida, responded to a horrific crime scene at a gas station where an innocent mother was violently attacked and murdered. Their surveillance footage, which is circulating widely on social media, shows Robert Joaquin, a Haitian illegal alien, brutally striking the victim multiple times in the head with a hammer. This senseless act has shocked our community and underscores the critical importance of immigration enforcement and our role in public safety. Through the coordinated efforts of the Fort Myers Police Department, ERO, HSI, the U.S. Marshals, CBP, Air and Marine Operations, this man was swiftly located and apprehended. The speed and accuracy in which our law enforcement teams were able to track the killer's movements and arrest him is a testament to our robust law enforcement partnerships here in the state of Florida. Currently, Mr. Joaquin is being held at the Lee County Jail on charges of homicide and property damage. ERO has issued an immigration detainer and will ensure that he is never released into the communities or the streets of the United States again. Joaquin, an illegal alien from Haiti, first entered the United States on August 9th, 2022, near Key West, Florida, subsequent to a maritime smuggling operation. He was arrested by the United States Border Patrol. He was turned over to ICE ERO for detention and was later issued immigration judge's final order of removal on September 9th, 2022. The prior administration allowed him to be released into the United States and subsequently granted him temporary protected status, giving him a legal safeguard to remain in our country. As of yesterday, the Trump administration stripped that safeguard, and his protections are now revoked. On June 27, 2025, the Trump administration announced the termination of temporary protective status for Haiti. It was determined that country conditions have improved to the point where Haitians can be returned safely. TPS, temporary protective status, was never designed to be a permanent stay in the United States, but for decades it's been abused as a de facto amnesty program. As we have ended TPS, the courts have obstructed the administration from restoring integrity to our immigration system. On March 11th, the Trump administration and the Supreme Court asked the Supreme Court to clear the way for it to end TPS for more than 350,000 Haitian immigrants. The case that occurred here in Fort Myers highlights the President's objective to restore law and order to our country and enforce immigration laws enacted by Congress. We here today stand together to reaffirm our commitment alongside our partners with Homeland Security Investigations, Fort Myers Police Department, to keeping our communities safe and secure. Here in the state of Florida, we do that. We do that every day. We do that proudly. We do that with the Florida Sheriff's Association, with all the police chiefs. All the state and local partners work very well together here in the state of Florida, and we continue to reaffirm that daily. We've set a standard for 287G partnerships here. We have 325 agreements with just this fiscal year alone, over 6,000 arrests associated with those 325 agreements, by far the most in the country. We lead the way in enforcement, and we've seen tremendous success because of the cooperation in the state of Florida. As a highlight of that cooperation, I would like to introduce one of our great partners, Fort Myers Police Department Chief Fields.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Fields, and I proudly serve as the police chief for the city of Fort Myers. Today highlights the results that can transpire with strong partnerships between federal, state, and local agencies. Robert Joaquin was taken into custody after an extensive, coordinated manhunt. From the beginning, our commitment was unwavering, and our message was clear. We were not going home until Joaquin was in custody. I want to thank our federal partners, along with our state and local agencies, for their relentless effort, coordination, and shared resources that assisted and ultimately led to his capture. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the assistance from our community, who were also instrumental in his apprehension. As this case moves through the court process, I'll also recognize our amazing state attorney, Amira Fox, and her team as they continue pursuing justice for the victim and her family. This was a horrific crime. Evil individuals who commit violent acts in our community will be pursued, held accountable, and brought to justice. I will now turn it over to Micah McCombs, Acting Special Agent in charge with Homeland Security.
Thank you, Chief Fields. My name is Micah McCombs, serving as the Acting Special Agent in charge for HSI, covering Southwest Florida. HSI is the principal investigative arm of the Department of Homeland Security, and we share a building with enforcement and removal operations. So when that call came in that this subject was on the run, a seamless search ensued with our partners. The Fort Myers Police Department is one of our best partners. In fact, one of the first agents from HSI to take part in the search is a former FMPD officer. Our partnerships in Southwest Florida are extremely strong. This tragic event to this United States citizen who came here the right way 6 years ago, this Bangladeshi national who got her citizenship the right way, it's senseless. It's a video you can never unwatch. Should not happen in this country. The men and women of HSI and ERO together in this building with our partners at FMPD responded, and we're very proud of them, but we're very sad at the same time that this had to happen. With that, I'll turn it back over to Fawad Kelly Walker.
That concludes our briefing. Open the floor up to questions.
Kelly, if I could just ask, could you clarify how he got into the country? He was smuggled in and he wasn't granted PTS. And then just to follow up with that, PTS has extreme vetting. Was he going through the vetting process?
So he arrived in the United States via a water vessel on August 6, 2022 in a maritime smuggling event. He was not granted temporary protective status until 2023 when he applied later in 2023 and then reapplied in 2024. So there was a vetting process that happens during that application window. But he did not actually have it until then. We released him in 2022 because of the prior administration's policies.
Question.
Yes.
Okay. On Monday, a Fort Myers Police Department officer said in court that Joaquin is considered a suspect in another case. Can you name what case that is?
I don't think we're talking about the ongoing investigation at this time.
When it comes to that immigration detainer that is placed on this man, how will that impact this case and possible justice to the victim's family?
Look, we're here to serve we're a law enforcement partner. We are here to serve the criminal justice system. We will work closely hand in hand with the state's attorneys to make sure that this individual meets the full due justice deserved to him, to include if he's turned over to us and before his final day in court and his sentencing, we'll make sure and coordinate that directly with the state system and take him once he's completed his time and make sure that he never gets to the streets of the United States and gets back to his home country.
So we won't be deported prior to any due process with this case?
If the state wants to keep him in the United States of America, we will absolutely work with them to do that.
This question is for Chief Fields. According to the arrest report, some of the Fort Myers police officers had encountered the suspect on March 24th, so before the incident. What were the nature of those interactions and why was he not either arrested or detained then? Was there not probable cause or any kind of detainer that would have allowed for it?
So this is an active investigation, and we did have some contacts with him. over a period of time, but we're looking into those and looking at all those fine details on why we're in contact with them.
Was that contact to a prior case separate from this one?
I don't have that information right now, no.
Chief, can you confirm whether he is a suspect in any other cases at this point?
I cannot confirm, no.
We had heard that he had been to that location before and had some sort of, I guess dispute or confrontation regarding an ATM. He had gone in there. I don't know if this is true or not, but had he been there in the days before at that gas station?
These investigations are very fluid, and we look to vet every piece of information that we get, and we look to track down these rumors to make sure, through video, through witnesses. So I can't confirm anything at this time with that.
In the 4 years of the temporary protected status, what has the suspect been doing since then? Where has he been?
I don't know his whereabouts for the last 4 years, no.
Okay, last question.
If you can't confirm whether or not he's a suspect in another case, why would an officer say in court Monday that he is?
I don't know. I'll have to look into it, though. We'll confirm that.
Okay. One last question. I'm sorry.
Okay, last one right here.
The DHS press release had mentioned that the TPS expired in 2024, and I was trying to just figure out the gap there between if that's the right date and sort of like where he was.
Right.
The time of his arrest.
So when TPS expires, although expired, they still have protection until there's a decision on their renewal application, which he filed timely. So he had protection up until the moment that the administration revoked his protection, which happened just this week. So he no longer has that available to him, and we'll do full justice at this time. Okay. And then I think that was the last question. Go ahead,
Yes,
Mike.
as a reminder, we'll show you the video as to why we're here today. All right, thank you. That concludes our press conference. Sir?
And you were just watching Florida officials giving a briefing to the press about the murder through a hammer of a Florida mother, and saying that the suspect illegally came into the U.S. under President Biden, then President Biden, and then was released into the public, and then saying that he is now in custody and he will be never again be released into the public under this administration. Okay, moving on. President Trump is calling out the victim as well. Let's take a look. Meanwhile, an ICE program is helping victims of illegal crime, immigrant crime, to pursue justice while providing support in navigating the often unclear path for a victim when the accused perpetrator is in the country illegally. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has the details.
The Victim of Immigration Crime Engagement Office, which we call VOICE, exists for one reason: to ensure the victims of crime committed by aliens are not forgotten.
ICE Director Todd Lyons gives an update on the VOICE office 1 year after its relaunch. The program assists victims and their families who have been affected by crimes committed by illegal immigrants.
Because for too long, many of these people standing here with me have felt like they didn't have a voice.
Lyons was joined by family members of victims of murder and other crimes committed by people in the country illegally.
The love that she generously gave to everybody and the hope that she had for her future was erased by someone who had no right to be in this country.
Boss says that the VOICE program helped her and her family track the case and whereabouts of her daughter's perpetrator.
Normally, a victim doesn't have to wonder what's happening, where the perpetrator is, when the court dates are going to be. That's just not how it works with an illegal alien criminal. There's conflicting state and federal laws, and the path just is not clear.
Todd Lyons says there's been almost 900 calls to the VOICE program since its relaunch, situations that victims of illegal immigrant crime and their families are in. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
Oil prices pulling back slightly today, but remaining elevated as tensions persist around the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, stocks open higher than before, taking a slight dip. Top senators meeting with President Trump today. They're expected to discuss a Republican plan to go it alone on immigration enforcement funding because of Democrat opposition. More news after this.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com. The 8th NTD International Piano Competition welcomes distinguished pianists from around the world, celebrating the depth, discipline, and expressive power of the Baroque, classical, and romantic repertoire. September 1st through the 5th, 2026, New York City. Apply at piano.ntdtv.com, honoring the timeless tradition of the piano.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer. And your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
And turning to energy, oil prices pulling back slightly today, but remaining elevated as tensions persist around the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. crude briefly topped $100 a barrel before easing, while Brent also edged higher. Shipping through the vital route remains severely restricted, keeping markets on edge. The waterway is responsible for about 20% of global oil supply. Meanwhile, stocks opened higher. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ gained ground after March inflation came in largely as expected, despite pressure from the Iran conflict. The Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ all ticking up at the opening bell as investors weigh the stability of the ceasefire. All 3 indexes dipped slightly as of this afternoon. Inflation is heating up again, this time driven almost entirely by the war in Iran. The annual rate rising to 3.3% in March, the highest level since May 2024. That's according to a Bureau of Labor Statistics report issued today. It says the increase was almost totally driven by a spike in energy prices. Core inflation, which does not factor in food and energy prices, ticked up just slightly to 2.6% from 2.5%. That's still below expectations of 2.7%. The rise wasn't a surprise to analysts, but the key question now is whether these price pressures will stick in the months ahead. Tariffs 2.0. Democrat-led states and small businesses are back in the International Trade Court today. This time, they're challenging the president's global tariffs applied under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. President Trump turned to this provision after the Supreme Court ruled against his use of an emergency powers law. The plaintiffs are seeking to end the latest tariffs. A federal trade court in New York is hearing the oral arguments this morning. NTD's Arlene Richards explains.
Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years.
24 Democrat-led states and 2 small businesses are challenging the president's tariffs imposed under a different trade statute. In February, the Supreme Court ruled that an emergency powers statute called IEPA doesn't authorize the president to impose sweeping tariffs. It stated that tariff authority under that statute was not clearly delegated to the president by Congress.
Wow. The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing.
After the ruling, the president immediately imposed temporary 10% global tariffs under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. He cited the nation's large, persistent, and serious balance of payments deficit as the reason for imposing the tariffs. Now, new plaintiff businesses represented by the same attorney in the previous case and the states on Friday will similarly argue that the president doesn't have authority under Section 122 either. They say in papers filed with the court that the U.S. is not facing large and serious international payment problems and that Section 122 was designed to address short-term balance of payments emergencies, not to impose sweeping tariffs. The Justice Department responded in its papers that Section 122 clearly delegates tariff authority to the president and argues that the president has done what the plaintiff's attorney repeatedly suggested in the previous tariff case. Furthermore, the president has complied with Section 122's amount and duration limitations, a maximum of 15% surcharge for up to 150 days. The plaintiffs have asked the Court of International Trade to decide the case as a matter of law and to pause the president's tariffs if the case moves through the courts. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Republican senators are set to meet with President Trump today to discuss the DHS funding stalemate amid a historic shutdown that's lasted over 50 days. NTD's Melania Trump reports.
Lawmakers out of town for recess amid the longest partial government shutdown in history. Today, top senators will meet with President Trump to discuss a path forward to fund the immigration enforcement aspect of the department without any Democrat votes. The Senate's number 2 Republican, Senator John Barrasso, told reporters yesterday, "We're going to have to go it alone because the Democrats aren't interested in funding national security at a time of increased concerns around the world." Barrasso saying the idea was to get it done quickly in a targeted way. President Trump wants the GOP-only bill by June 1st.
And I will answer President Trump's call to fund ICE and the Border Patrol by June 1st through reconciliation. I will lead this charge. We will give funding to ICE and Border Patrol without one Democratic vote because they will never give us their vote.
The DHS stalemate dragged on for more than 50 days. It started due to Democrat demands for changes to ICE policy.
I will vote no on any legislation that funds ICE until it is reined in and overhauled.
But now that Republicans are using a party line process to fund ICE, Democrats' reform demands will go unmet.
They got zero of that. So they wanted all these restrictions on law enforcement agencies, on ICE and CBP. They got none of that. They walked away from the table.
Today's meeting with the president comes as the House is expected to vote next week on a measure to fund the DHS without immigration enforcement. Some House Republicans have rejected the proposal. ICE was funded throughout the shutdown and will be for several years due to previous funding from the GOP's One Big Beautiful Bill. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Artemis 2 is headed home after its historic trip around the moon. As the 4 astronauts gear up for re-entry, the nation's lawmakers making a special call. Take a look.
Integrity Houston, good burn.
NASA's Artemis 2 mission is now halfway home as the crew prepares for a high-stakes return to Earth. But before re-entry, a rare moment of connection between deep space and Washington. Lawmakers speaking directly with the crew, praising a mission that's captured the world's attention.
I can only imagine the awe and wonderment you feel, but I want to just start by saying thank you. You are inspiring.
I can't even imagine how unbelievably proud your families are of you and how excited they are to see you soon and to welcome you back to Earth.
This mission has been unifying in so many ways.
For the astronauts, the journey has been deeply personal.
If I could have told that little girl who took home a picture of Earthrise and hung it in her room that she would eventually launch from that same place to see that same view, I'm pretty sure she would not believe it.
I just want to look at my daughters, Ellie and Katie, and just say I love you, and their support has been unbelievable. I don't think they knew what this mission really meant when we launched, but they have learned through the outpouring of public support.
And even as they reflect, they're already thinking about what comes next.
It's part of our ethos as a crew and our values from the very beginning were that this is a relay race. In fact, we have batons that we bought to symbolize physically that. We plan to hand them to the next crew, and every single thing that we do is with them in mind.
After becoming the farthest traveling humans in history, the mission is entering its most dangerous phase, re-entry.
And we've reviewed all the systems, we've reviewed all the re-entry procedures and activities, and we are good to go.
Flight teams carefully tracking each step with almost no margin for error.
We've got about, less than a degree of angle that we need to hit. And, when we come in, we need to be right in the center of that.
Orion will slam into Earth's atmosphere at an extremely high speed. The heat from friction caused by the air will turn the capsule into a fireball as it hurtles toward the ocean.
The Orion spacecraft will enter the Earth's atmosphere at approximately 25,000 miles per hour. That heat shield, the thermal protection system, which is built by American hands in American factories for materials designed to withstand temperatures that approach the surface of the sun, will bear the full force of that reentry.
Even as engineers expressed confidence, there's no denying the tension heading into splashdown.
There's no question that we'll all be anxious, and but we'll be with the families. We'll be with them. We'll all be together. I have full confidence in the team. They do too.
Splashdown is scheduled for 8:07 p.m. Eastern off the coast of San Diego. The world will be watching with bated breath as the 4 history-making astronauts come home.
First Lady Melania Trump is pushing back against what she calls false smears linking her to Jeffrey Epstein, vowing legal action against those making the claims.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell.
The First Lady did not mention any specific allegations that were made, but said her name has never appeared in court documents, victim statements, or FBI interviews tied to the case. She is now calling on Congress to hold public hearings, allowing Epstein's victims to testify under oath and have their accounts entered into the official record. She says her legal team will continue pursuing action against what she describes as baseless and politically motivated claims. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has expelled Spain from an international body monitoring Gaza. Netanyahu said Spain had defamed soldiers in the IDF. The group was created last year to monitor the Trump-brokered peace plan in Gaza. The group's work involves planning the stabilization and reconstruction of Gaza. Around 200 U.S. service members are working alongside the Israeli military and delegations from other countries. Netanyahu saying he wouldn't allow any country to wage a so-called diplomatic war against Israel without paying a price. Ukraine's president revealing that Ukrainian forces have been involved in shooting down Iranian drones in the Middle East. He says Russia also uses the same Iranian drones widely in its war against Ukraine. Zelensky hasn't specified which Middle Eastern countries hosted Ukrainian forces, but he says the developments were part of broader security arrangements. In return, Ukraine received support for protecting its energy infrastructure along with oil, diesel, and financial assistance. Zelensky saying Ukraine is strengthening security in the Middle East in exchange for strengthening its own resilience. Revelation comes amid growing concern that conflicts in the Middle East could divert Western military aid away from Ukraine. Russia is announcing a temporary ceasefire in its war with Ukraine set to coincide with the Orthodox Easter holiday. The Kremlin says it expects Ukraine to follow suit, calling for a pause in fighting through the weekend. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country will respond in kind but remain cautious. Previous ceasefires have been marred by accusations of violations. Ukraine saying Russia committed hundreds of breaches on the first day last time round. Even as the pause is announced, fighting has continued. A Russian drone strike hitting port and energy infrastructure in Odessa overnight. A big legal blow for Meta Platforms. Massachusetts top court says the tech giant must answer claims it knowingly addicted teens. More news after this break. Don't go away.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
This is how I keep my joints happy.
Omega XL is a powerful natural supplement backed by 40 years of clinical research. Take control of your pain, like Cynthia Bailey.
My knees in particular started giving me pain issues all the way back to my modeling days, from just running through airports, photo shoots. After taking Omega XL, I really started to notice how less stiff I was, especially my knees and my hip. Has Omega XL changed my life? Yes. I barely notice my joint pain anymore. Now I'm like literally sprinting through the airports. My secret is Omega XL.
Pick up the phone and call now to get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Omega XL and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. You'll also get a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. Buy one, get 2 free. A total value of over $115, all for just $49.95. You save more than 55% and shipping is free. Backed by a money-back guarantee and is not available in stores. Operators are standing by, so call now.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets. Regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School. College first-round draft pick during the football season, I would stop eating. But I didn't know I was depressed. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father and as a husband. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
Former President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, is challenging President Trump's sons, Donald Jr. and Eric, to a cage match. Hunter said that social media commentator and YouTube personality Andrew Callaghan pitched the idea.
Hey guys, Hunter Biden here. I just got a call from Andrew Callahan. He asked me to come out on the Channel 5 Carnival Tour at the end of the month. I think we start in Phoenix, and then we go to San Diego, and we end in Albuquerque. And I think he's trying to organize a cage match, me versus Eric and Don Jr. I told him I'd do it, 100% in, if he can pull it off. And if he can't, I'm still coming.
The challenge lands against the backdrop of the nation's 250th independence celebrations. A professional UFC fight is already scheduled for June 14th at the White House. Trump first floated the idea of a White House UFC fight last July. UFC President Dana White, a close friend of Trump, is overseeing the June event. Meta Platforms is facing a lawsuit brought by the Massachusetts Attorney General. The suit accuses Meta of designing Instagram to be addictive for children. The Massachusetts Supreme Court ruled today that the lawsuit doesn't seek to hold Meta liable for content created by its users. However, the state's high court ruled that the suit instead targets the company's conduct. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell hailed the ruling. She called the decision a major step in holding social media companies accountable for fueling a youth mental health crisis. Meta has denied the allegations, arguing the company takes extensive steps to ensure its platforms are safe for teens and young people. 34 other states are pursuing similar cases against Meta in federal court. A federal judge is ordering the Pentagon to grant full access, press access that is, to the building. The ruling finding the War Department violating a prior court order. The New York Times sued the Department of War last year. The legal challenge centering around an ultimatum for reporters to sign an agreement not to seek unauthorized information from Pentagon employees or give up their press credentials. A district judge last month ruled in favor of the newspaper, calling the requirement unconstitutional. Following the ruling, the Pentagon made a new policy restoring press credentials to some reporters, but barring journalists from entering the Pentagon without an escort. The government said this policy didn't violate the judge's previous order. However, the Times sued again, arguing the new access limits were simply a workaround. A U.S. trade court is hearing a key case today weighing the legality of President Trump's 10% global import tariffs, which 24 states are challenging. We have more news after this break. Stay with us.
Absolutely perfection.
Hands down, the best show I've ever seen.
I almost cried like 8 times.
I don't think anybody realizes how good this show is until you actually get into the theater and see it.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
It fills the cup with joy.
Could not get enough of it.
You have to come see it.
It's a must-see. Must-see. Returns to David Koch Theater, March 25th through April 12th. Get your tickets at shenyun.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Seymour, and I spent years on TV playing a doctor. But I learned about the heartbreaking reality of heart disease and stroke when they touched my own life. My father nearly died before having a quadruple bypass and valve replacement that saved him. And my mom, who was my inspiration, suffered a stroke that took away her speech, her ability to move, and ultimately her life. To see someone so vibrant, so positive, who'd survived so much in life, be debilitated by a stroke, it was devastating, and also a wake-up call. And that's why I'm so passionate about supporting the American Heart Association. They're doing more every day to stop needless deaths. But they simply can't do their life-saving work without you. So please, call now or go to helpheart.org. And for only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your donation will go to work to do amazing things, like fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I hope that you'll open your heart right now and join me. Please, call now or go to helpheart.org, give $19 a month, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can proudly wear to show that you're part of a community of monthly donors who are helping save lives. A healthy heart is the spirit of life. It makes it possible to do the things that you love, to spend time with your friends and family and fulfill your life's dreams. But so many won't have that chance. Heart disease is America's #1 killer and the #1 killer of women. And that's why I'll do whatever I can to make sure others don't die from heart disease before their time. So please join me. Call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Hey, boss. Okay?
I said I'm fine.